It's Monday. That's Crossroad coaching time in the Crossroad Diner, that place where your spirit goes when it might be time to change direction. Hey, John, it's Monday. What does that mean?
We're back in the corner booth at the Crossroad Diner, my friend.
That's exactly right.
Yes, it is.
We have committed to once a week on Mondays, we'll release a little coaching tip, just a little idea to kind of help you get organized. It's pretty generic. It should fit anybody in anybody's situation. So today, last week we talked about choosing joy, and that's just, just the attitude of it. And John, thank you so much for putting that together.
Absolutely.
Are you feeling joyful today?
Today and every day, man. It's a choice. It's a choice.
It is a choice, but he's had a lot of help. We visited a little bit before we start these things, and John's having a good week. I can tell you.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Today, John, I want to talk about a tool that I just kind of came across. It's going to sound so simple. You're going to go, really? This is a thing? When I was in my 20s, coming out of the Air Force as a trainer and moving into corporate training, we were getting lost in data. We were getting lost in where we were in projects. And, there's a lot of confusion. This was before the internet and surfing and how you can kind of get off on tangents. And so I created this little tool, which I called, the focus triangle or the focus prop. And it helps you kind of, always check back and see where you are. This is a propeller from an airplane, and you will see that it's got 3 blades. And so we would just put this little triangle. It also kind of looks like a Mercedes emblem. But the 12 o'clock propeller stood for defining the problem and where you are. The 4 o'clock propeller stood for the plan and the execution of trying to close that gap. And the 8 o'clock prop was a status check so that you could kind of see whether you're there or if you need to go back to the drawing board. So that's it. But let me just talk about this in a little more
So
detail.
Are we done? Just kidding.
You can drop off.
That was a great one.
Okay, good. See you next week. That was 2.5 minutes of Crossroad coaching. When you're back there in the corner, and you got you a milkshake in the corner booth, you don't need much. So, but really, seriously, there are steps involved in each one of these. And we're going to have a PDF in the show notes so that you kind of, summarize this for you. But the beginning is figuring out what you actually want, the state that you want to end up in. You have to define that. And in the rotations that you'll be making, going through the cycles, what you'll discover is you'll probably refine that a lot. It will kind of come more into focus. You see what we did?
Nice play. Nice play there.
So the first thing is, what do you want? Then you got to figure out where you actually are right now. And that's that can take some assessment and might even need some help. You might put the team together or get, for John and I, we do this with each other. Once you define what your desired state is and what your current state is, you have completed the first step of the focus triangle. You know what you want. You know where you are. Then you move to the
Would you say, Steve, that that's kind of your high noon?
I wouldn't, but I'm real sorry that you did. But sure, that's great. No, you make a really good point. This shows up in all kinds of coaching, teaching, wisdom. You have to have a target. You have to have a North Star, something that's constant, something that doesn't change, because everything's changing in our world. And when you try to manipulate something, if you change a variable, that's why when you do blind testing or A/B testing on something, you only change one thing to see what the effect of that is. We'll get onto that, in 2 years from now. So step 1 was focus, identify desired state and where you are now. The second step is planning the action. You figure out, what is it going to take to get from here to there? Well, looks like I'm a little bit low, and I'm also a little bit to the right of where I need to be. And so what's the plan? How am I going to close that gap? You write down the plan, and then you begin to implement it and see what's happening. Then you get to a place where you can assess that And that's the third step. The third step is, where are we now after the action? The military calls it an after action report. You take an action and you do an assessment to see, where are we now? And when you do that and you do the check, you may find that, look at that you're even farther away than you were. That's okay. Now you know the effect of that decision. And you go back to the top of the thing. Where are we? And what do we want to be? You're farther apart. So you go back to the top and say, we're not there. Make another plan. And you make those adjustments until you start in the third step, until you get lined up even on what it is that you wanted. Now, I know that sounds incredibly simplistic, but we can get so down in the weeds on these projects and things. John and I are working on some marketing things for both of our coaching and our speaking programs. And we'll get off on a tangent. And John is fantastic about saying, wait a minute, our desired state is to have this. And we will get that focus back. And I really appreciate you for maintaining that for us.
Right back at you.
But the discipline is definition, take an action, assess. Definition, take an action, assess. We define where we want to be, we take an action, and then we get involved down in the weeds with that action. We get distracted from our desired state into our interest with whatever that thing is. Somebody on your team, and if you're a one-man shop, this is always you. If you're a one-gal shop, this is always you. Are we where we want to be? That question should come up every hour or so until you get where you want to be. And you need to do kind of one thing at a time. I know how hard that is, but if you're doing multitasking, which women claim they can do, men know that they can't do more than one thing at a time.
That's funny, because I think men are the ones that think they can do everything, and women are the ones that are smart enough to know different. But
well,
we digress.
Yeah.
We're moving away from our desired state. So
there you go. See, there he did it. He went to number 3. He said, "Are we there?" No, we're not there. Well, let's get back on track.
I was simply going to ask you, just real quick, as you have implemented this through your career, where do you see the sticking points like, for instance, in defining your desired state, what do you see the problem that arises most often when people are trying to define their desired state?
Not knowing what you don't know.
It's good. It's good. Flesh that out a little bit more.
Well, and that's what's really great about the process, actually, John, is when you initially define that and you go through this process of working out, trying to get closer to what you think is a desired state, you'll start to discover that'll take you on paths of failure that won't work. Like I said a minute ago, we're farther away from that.
Yeah.
But the action that we took was inexpensive, and whatever the assessment is, we made this choice because it works with our budget, works with our timeline, but it doesn't get us to where we wanted to go. Well, why is that? And then you start realizing, well, what we have defined as desired state may be out of reach. It may not be where we are at this point. Or you find out, in doing this, I find out we didn't include a bunch of information. So our plan couldn't have gotten us there because we didn't know about these roadblocks or these difficulties or the software or whatever, budget, whatever it is. Then we have to look. So then when you go back to step 1, you have to look at this and go, is that the desired state? Really? Let's really refine what that desired state is so that all of our efforts are shooting at the target we want to hit. And that can get, you can really get lost in that. So,
that's good.
And the stupidity of the simplicity of the process is that if you stick to it and if you work your way through it and ask those 3 questions, where do I want to be and where am I now? What am I going to do about it? And did it work? And you work your way through that, and you have an accountability partner, if at all possible, who checks with you on those things. Now, there's none of us that are running solopreneur activities that don't have 55 of these things that we've got to, keep going at a time. That's where you want to get a calendar. You want to put it on there. You want to have reminders that are coming to you and say, this is a deadline. You want it to be here by now. Either move the deadline, move the goalpost, or take this thing off because you're not working on it. And that discipline, you and I have found that discipline puts us in focus pretty well. Because if we have to do something about it by the deadline or take it off the list, that's a discipline that puts you in focus. So 3 steps: define the desired state and find out where you are. 2, make a plan for closing the distance. 3, did it close the distance? If yes, move on to the next thing. If no, go back to 1 and define the desired state and the distance again.
That's good. I think about as you're kind of rolling this out, points in my past, and I even think about relationships, and so much conflict has to do with expectations.
Yes.
And so I feel like when you're talking about identifying that desired state, clarifying expectations, especially if we work on a team and someone else is telling our team what they need to do, that either they are not clear or we are too prideful to ask questions, clarifying questions. And even when we're in, solopreneurship, we do the same thing. I have a tendency to I love vision and I love dreaming up this big thing that needs to be accomplished, but then I don't give enough definition to the desired state, to what I have a friend that used to say, what does finish look like?
Yep.
And it's like, whoa, okay, now that's a whole different question. And we ought to do this thing that's big and bright and changes people's lives. And okay, that's great. But what does it look like when you've actually done that? And
exactly.
That feels like kind of getting those clarifying questions in there so that you're clear on expectations. What is the action we're going to take and the expected outcome? Because if we don't have that expectation of what that action is going to, then we can't do number 3 of, did it work? Well, we don't know if it worked or not if we don't have clarity on where we're going, clarity on what we think the next step's going to do to take us there. How can we possibly know if we're getting closer or not? Yeah, I love this, Steve. I love the focus triangle.
Yeah, it's very simple. And I think you've really put your thumb on one of the key values. Is it helps you to refine and truly identify desired state. And it also keeps you focused on that when your actions that you're taking end up being interesting and you think that they're bearing fruit that you think the world needs. Has nothing to do with desired state or very loosely. And you get seduced off into that path. And I am shiny object prone. I can get distracted into something creative and interesting in a heartbeat, and I have to use this process to be productive at all, because I could have 50 balls in the air and I can barely juggle 2. So I've learned from experience that a little tool like the decision triangle and the focus triangle is gonna help you out a lot.
This decision-making focus triangle propeller has propelled me forward and given me clarity on where I'm going, and it's going to help me get there faster. And so I think the outcome of this is tremendous. The simplicity of it, I got to tell you, I don't think you said stupidly simplistic. I'm like going, simple is never stupid. Simple is always brilliant. It is absolutely.
I teed that up for you because I knew that you were going to come back with that. But here's what happened. You had a desired state of a co-working space, and then found out that's what it's called. You implemented it and you got it, and you said, "Are we done?" Yes. And the next question was, "Do I really want to be here?" I mean, I got the job done with that.
Right.
But it's keeping me from another. So I got this done.
And the answer was yes for 7 years.
Right. And then you realize, wait a minute, my desired state is over here. And actually, this is in the way of me getting there because it's sucking up all my time and resources. So let me put that in a good place and then restart with my desired state. And in the processing and figuring out of number 2, your desired state can't include, you don't have the bandwidth to have it include the co-working space, although you love it You loved all those people. You loved helping them make their
Absolutely.
dreams come true.
Yes.
It fed your soul and your spirit, but it did not move you down the road to the ultimate place that you wanted to
The
be.
next place, right? The
The
next
next
place.
place.
Yeah. Vision changes. Yeah.
But you learn so much in that process that now you're more equipped to be on that road. So it
Yeah.
served a purpose. Yeah. It
I
wasn't
love absolutely, well, Steve. I love the idea that so that's a very personal kind of life revelation that the
right.
focus triangle has helped with. You think about something as simple as, well, I say simple, something as intricate, but something we have all the time called an iPhone.
Yeah.
And product development is exactly the same process.
Yeah.
The iPhone that we have today that we couldn't live without, what used to be iPhone number one, which
Yeah.
now if we hold that in our hand, we think looks like an ancient
It
relic. And
looks
it
like a
wasn't
rock.
that long ago, right?
Yeah. This is a 7, and we're now at 14, so this is half the journey back.
And
And
all of that came from this process: desired state, actions, where are we now, product needs to change, what's going to change, what action we need to take to make, and then do it. This is exactly what every product development manager on the planet needs to be following, or probably is following, the better ones,
and
versus the let's throw it up on the wall and see what sticks.
let's see what we can make and find somebody who'll buy it. The No matter who you are, John, no matter who our viewers and listeners are, they are that product. They themselves are the brand, and they have a place that they want to go. Now, so many of them start off by getting a job so they can function, but as they move up that hierarchy of development and they've got needs met on a physical level, and they start looking at who they want to be and what they want to do, this tool really helps you figure out if you can get there in the working in the space that you're in, and try to do that, because that you've got resources, you've got knowns, and you did that for 7 years with the co-working space, and it's people met. There's benefits to all that, but you still have to come back and say, what is my desired state? Who do I ultimately want to be? What legacy do I want to leave?
The focus prop helps us move closer to the center of our more.
Ooh, there you go. Got his stuff in it. Got my stuff in it. Okay. We're looking at little tiny ideas. And next week on coaching, we're going to talk about decisions versus options. We're going to look at the subtle difference between those two. Anything more before we sign off, John?
No, this has been fantastic. Brilliant simplicity in the focus prop, the focus triangle. I like focus prop. I got to tell you.
I like focus prop too. I think we're going to move it. We're going to move it in that direction.
Hey, we can Hey, you know what? You made a decision of a desired state. You took steps. Now you're looking at it going, that's not exactly focus triangle. It looks more like a prop. It's I'm going to call it the focus prop. New desired state. I love it. I think it's done. I mean, I think this is check, done.
We can move on to decisions and options now. And so thanks for being with us in the corner booth, Crossroad Diner, and John Burnett, Steve McCurdy. Listen, if you want an introductory coaching call with us, drop us a line at crossroaddiner@storymastermedia.com, and we will set you up. We'll visit with you with whatever you're working on right now, and see if we could be a benefit to you, and we'll give you a quarter hour on us. Until next time. This has been the Crossroad Diner, the place your spirit goes when it might be time to change direction.